Look at a clock and you're using their math. Drive a car and you're rolling on their invention. Read a legal contract and you are relying on a concept they pioneered over 5,000 years ago, the 60-second minute, the wheel, and the first written laws. Despite authoring the manual for modern human life, the Sumerians vanished. Their language died, their cities burned, and the desert swallowed them whole. The Sumerian collapse is a physical warning. When a society bends the environment entirely to its will, the earth pushes back, and the price of that arrogance is absolute destruction. Southern Mesopotamia, in modern-day Iraq, is a brutal place to start a civilization. Summer temperatures regularly top 120 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no rainfall, no stone to build with, and no timber to harvest. It is a flat, wind-blasted expanse of baked clay. To survive here, early humans had to engineer the only resources they had, river mud and marsh reeds. They wove the thick reeds into massive, vaulted houses and baked the mud into bricks, stacking them to form the first true cities. But their greatest leap was mastering the water itself. By carving complex networks of canals, they diverted the mighty Tigris and Euphrates. These artificial veins pulled consistent harvests from the arid soil, fueling a massive food surplus across the plain. This abundance sustained a population density never before seen in the ancient world. It culminated in Uruk, a metropolis of 50,000 people, the largest humanity had ever built. They didn't build cities because the environment was accommodating. They built them because the landscape was so hostile that intense, hyper-organized cooperation was the only way to stay alive. Feeding 50,000 people inside Uruk's walls required a massive logistical effort. Managing the daily rations, the barley harvests, and the specialized workforces quickly outgrew human memory. To keep the city from starving, the administrators invented cuneiform. Pressing a wedge-shaped reed into wet clay, they turned physical goods into abstract data. This script evolved into an instrument of statecraft, as scribes cataloged troop movements and the tallies of military conquest. The region descended into organized warfare, as neighboring powers vied for control of the rivers. This violence peaked with the Akkadian ruler Sargon, who unified the cities through sheer military force. Sargon pioneered a ruthless method of imperial control. After conquering a city, he ordered his armies to smash its defensive walls to rebel, ensuring his new subjects could never safely rebel. The systems invented to sustain life, bureaucratic organization, and written records became the tools used to efficiently subjugate, tax, and slaughter human beings on an industrial scale. Centuries later, Sumerian culture flared back in a final golden age. Kings poured their wealth into colossal stepped temples, called Ziggurats, projecting absolute power across the desert skyline. Beneath the shadow of these monuments, an invisible disaster was gathering. The river water flooding the Sumerian canals contained small amounts of dissolved minerals. When the brutal sun evaporated that water, the minerals stayed behind. Decade after decade, a toxic white crust built up on the topsoil. This soil salination choked the life out of the earth, causing crucial wheat harvests to plummet. The Sumerians realized what was happening. They desperately tried to adapt by replacing dying wheat with barley, which is much more resistant to salt. But they were fighting a losing battle against their own soil. The system of massive irrigation that built their empire was a slow-acting poison. By mastering the rivers, they inadvertently destroyed the very ground that kept them alive. Then the climate snapped. A sudden shift in global weather patterns triggered a severe drought across Mesopotamia that would last for nearly 300 years. To the ancient people looking up, the timing must have felt apocalyptic. Right as the rains failed, a blazing comet appeared, hanging in the sky as a terrifying cosmic omen. Down on the ground, the reality was even worse. The mighty rivers shrank. The salt-choked soil finally gave out completely, and the packed megacities plunged into a catastrophic famine. Grain prices soared to 60 times their normal cost. The surrounding nomadic mountain tribes were starving too. Driven by the exact same drought, these desperate fighters pushed south into the Sumerian heartland, looking for whatever scraps of food remained. In a frantic attempt to survive, the Sumerians ordered the construction of a massive earthen wall. Stretching nearly 200 miles between the two rivers, it was designed to lock the starving invaders out. A static wall fails against a starving, desperate population when the empire defending it is already rotting from within. The defenses failed. A tidal wave of invaders poured over the ramparts, surrounded the final stronghold of and burned it to the ground. Invading armies stormed the Great Ziggurat, slaughtering priests and plundering the temple's gold. The last Sumerian king was dragged out in chains to die in a foreign prison. The surviving population fled, carrying whatever they could on their backs. The canals dried up, the wooden roofs rotted away, and the winds slowly buried the world's first cities under the desert sand. Their empire turned to dust, but their ideas escaped. The mathematics they calculated, the laws they wrote, and the concept of urban life itself passed on to neighboring cultures, becoming the invisible operating system for the modern world. The Sumerian story maps the arc of human ambition. We have the ingenuity to pull civilization from the mud and the hubris to ensure it eventually returns to the dust.